Hey folks, how's it going? RedMaster, and welcome back to another episode of Ranked with Red, where today we are jumping into a brand new deck for the series. Of course, it's going to be the Green Zoo list that we took a look at, I believe last week at the time of filming this. But yeah, looking forward to getting into it. However, a little bit nervous just because of, well, let's just say I haven't been doing great in Ranked this past month, the month of September, and it's really kind of hit the MMR pretty hard. I'm very curious to see how that will affect this new rank, because of course this deck is going through its 10-0 placement, its first set of placement rankings, and you know, if your MMR isn't great when you do that, your decks usually end up in a pretty rough position. So I am interested to see where that exactly is right now, if it's good, if it's bad. We did have, I believe, 5 games on it, where I think the current record is either 4-1 or 3-2. I currently forget which is which. But I am looking, of course, to get some games going for the channel here and give you guys some more great content. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into match number 1. Alright folks, and game number 1 now underway as we go up against a Warlock Ninja deck to start things off here. Could be some Awakened shenanigans, but of course, you'll find out about the matchup as we progress on into here, though. Of course, been doing more post commentaries over live commentaries. I feel like it's great for my focus to focus more on the game rather than giving some commentary. So of course, we are doing the post commentary as we start off with the Salahar Rider from our opponent, which is of course not an uncommon sight to see here, as we're going to meet the Ramrus here to throw up and block to intercept. That is going to come out or be met with, the Faithful Drake. The Rider will of course land on castle, so we do get to keep that Ramrus body, which is great for us. We want to get that advantage in terms of just keeping some bodies alive to contest whatever he's got for us. And of course, we don't really have much else to do right now at this turn, so we are going to throw out the Blacksmith, get the Ramrus a little stronger, of course, move it a space back in order to protect our face from the flyer. And of course, our opponent now will set up a Faithful Dragon Temple, plus the Filthy Peasant, which is an interesting choice. Maybe definitely more of an aggro deck from our opponent, but you know, it is what it is. I told you guys the MMR was not that good right now. But regardless, we are going to throw out the second copy of Ramrus in our hand. We are going to meet the Faithful Drake there for the collision and pass it back to our opponent. We do have the Centaur plus Bestial Rage in hand, so we can do a little cleanup in the back row, which is going to be pretty important. Our opponent does throw out the Faithful Drake, which currently at the 5-5 stat line can do quite a bit of damage, so we are going to try and aim for the Centaur Bestial Rage removal here. We can pop the Peasant with the Blacksmith while keeping the Blacksmith alive here at this point. I noticed he's kind of running out of cards a little faster than normally we would see from other players, so we are going to go ahead and try to take advantage of that. We walk the Centaur in looking to find the Drake. We don't find it though, so we do go into the Bestial Rage, popping the Castle and the Dragon Temple, while also taking away the Filthy Peasant from the board here, because why not? The Shadow Drake, of course, running all the way up to face on the bottom lane, or the bottom side, I guess, is more appropriate. So he now has the option to go either forward to face, or land and kill in our Blacksmith here. He also follows up the Vampire, which I thought was pretty cool. That, of course, takes out our Centaur, while also not necessarily gaining back the full health, does gain quite a big portion of it. He'll also trade the Blacksmith in, which is pretty good, I guess, trying to get a clear board here, but we do have the Windfall Griffin, which will do some massive work here, not only cleaning up the Shadow Drake, but we'll be able to clear off the Vampire, even if he decides to buff it up back to the original stat line. But the Stone Drake coming in to intercept this as well, which I found quite annoying. We do have the Mordok and Baby Dino in the hand, which I did want to get out at some point. So the Southport Captain we picked up is going to be a great way for us to do that. We want to get the Southport Captain out on this turn, so that way we can ramp out into a Mordok plus Baby in the following turn. Be able to hopefully, you know, get enough stats to kill the incoming Vampire. We do make the trade with the Stone Drake here, because we don't want, you know, that big 5 damage coming in to face here. And of course, like I mentioned, he was going to come here and chomp with the Vampire, which is fine, no big deal. Our opponent goes into another Stone Drake plus Pumpkin, which I thought, again, interesting choice, considering that he was already a bit low on cards, but I guess he doesn't really mind taking that further drop in resource advantage, I guess. We do go for the Mordok Baby Dino combo here. We do get to pull the Wraith, which is extremely big here. I ultimately wanted to push back the Stone Drakes. I feel like that would have been more of a threat to deal with, rather than just killing off the Pumpkin and presenting the Wraith to whatever else is coming out, while also being unable to really deal with the Stone Drake. Ultimately, I think that was a smart choice. We do have the Armory coming out here, plus the Medal of Bravery. That results in yet another Vampire, which is okay, not a huge deal. We do land the Headless Horseman from the Mordock, which unfortunately doesn't kill the Stone Drake, but weakens it enough to make a trade with our Wraith. So not too bad. We do have another Centaur for this Armory, which I think we are going to utilize here after placing the Rat Hovel up in the back there to start generating some rats, because of course we do need just extra bodies. At this point, we're both in sort of a top deck war scenario, so it does make sense that we want to start pulling cards now. Or pulling bodies, I guess, to the board, which would be more impactful, not cards. I wish we had more draw power for this, but currently not, I think, running that. He does put the Necromancer out to pop our Centaur, which is fine. We do get to use the Horseman plus Swordsman in our hand. That is going to make cleaning up this Vampire a bit easier, while also presenting a big threat of, hey, the Swordsman's coming, what are you going to do? Unfortunately, I forgot the fear on the Necromancer will push back said Swordsman, but no big deal. Hopefully, whatever he top decks here is not going to really be enough. The advantage of having Hovel at this point in the game is that we're generating at least a body a turn, which is more than what he's able to do, because of course you never know what he can draw. He can draw a burn, he can draw some kind of ninja spell, which won't necessarily be a body. So having that guaranteed body is pretty important. For this turn, I opt to go into the Elvish Thief to make the trade here rather than just, leaving the Swordsman up to kill. I do want that additional damage that he might have to make from connecting a Swordsman on his face, so that's why we want to push it forward. We'll also keep the baby dinosaur alive in case we pull something like a Dino Nest that can get some serious value while having this baby dino still in play. He opts for the Gravestalker for turn, which is fine. Unfortunately, we don't, I think, pull a response to this. Yeah, we pull a Ramrus, which isn't really going to help us clear the Gravestalker. I was hoping to maybe land it on the rat and then maybe force the baby dino and that, frontmost rat into the Gravestalker, getting Swordsman to face, but unfortunately we don't get the RNG on that. So we are going to unfortunately just have to trade into the Gravestalker and pass. We're also pushing up a lot of these smaller bodies that we now get from that dual hovel action that happened. Our opponent goes in to get another Stone Drake, though. That is going to be quite annoying, considering that we don't really have a lot of ways. We're going to have to trade in all of our bodies, or at least a majority of them, to kill off said Stone Drake. But that pull, or those two pulls, from the double draw, do kind of make it more worthwhile for me, because, of course, I can only put my additional token bodies into the Stone Drake, but now we can, of course, move the rat up, slap and connect the face, killing off the Stone Drake, and then placing both the Spiny and Centaur to deal some big damage to his face. He does get the double draw here, so hopefully he might be able to, bounce back here. I don't know why I said hopefully. I mean, I'm the one playing the game, and I'm looking to win after all. But regardless, our opponent does draw 2 cards for turn. He does pull White Knight for one of them, which is going to be enough to clear out the Centaur with the help of the Necromancer. And of course, I believe he uses the Necromancer to... I think it goes into a rat trade here. I don't remember. Oh, no, he does make the Spiny trade. Okay, good. Good. I forgetful there for a second there. But we do end up pulling T-Rex and Wizard for turn, which at this point I think is going to be a nice way to end the game. We can, of course, use the T-Rex's Fear Aura to push these 2 rats into face, giving him more bodies to deal with, which he doesn't really want to do. And then, of course, throwing the Wizard out as well, which can hopefully do some fun stuff. We're, of course, going to take our damage there to kind of end the game ever so faster. Our Wizard's going to be moving away from the Fear Aura, so that way we can get it in the proper position. And, of course, pass back to our opponent, who really only has this 1 turn left to deal about 8 damage to my board. He could have done it, because, of course, the card he plays for turn is going to be... I'm hoping he plays it now, so it, makes sense. Come on, buddy. Make my line make sense here. It is going to be Rakanoth, right? So he could have dealt the remaining damage to castle if he had a unit closer, an undead unit closer, that was. But of course, the only unit he had was White Knight, so unfortunately he is not going to be able to get victory with that, giving us game number 1, or I guess game number 6 as the... And when you look at the greater rankings of it all, or placements of it all, excuse me. But regardless, it is a victory. And of course, you do get to move on into our next game. So let's go ahead and do so right now. Alright folks, and game number 2 now underway, as of course we are going up against a Warlock Pirate, which of course is always fun to see, unless they're playing that massive, burn-filled, green-red Awakened variant. That is always quite a pain to deal with, but unfortunately our hand isn't really looking too strong right now. We do have the Lumberjack to open up, but apart from that, that's unfortunately our only sort of, unit here to work with. We do get the Elvish Thief though, which of course is nice. Our opponent responds to the Lumberjack as well. We're going to make that Lumberjack trade for some draw, and we're feeling a little bit better about the early game because we get these Elvish Thieves now into our hand. And of course those things are going to be able to get us the necessary ramp, at least hopefully, to bring out a very early T-Rex that hopefully our opponent might not have a clear answer for. Our opponent goes for the Mischievous Imp, which, alright, I mean, it got me worried that we are playing against the Awakened variant here, but of course, Imp overall is just a nice little unit to have inside the Warlock faction if you ever have the space for it. A 3-1 body, that means it can trade with a lot of units on the in this territory, and the additional damage is nice for things like that, sniping off one of my Elvish Thieves, which is certainly annoying. But thankfully it hit one that I don't think I was really looking to keep. I was more focused on keeping the one that you're going to see our opponent trade into right now because of that needed ramp to get into an early T-Rex, a turn 4 T-Rex, mind you. And, of course, he needed to connect for our Elvish Thief so we can get that extra ramp to do so. Of course, now that we have T-Rex out, Big Boy is going to hit the field and become quite a nuisance for our opponent. I think our opponent just actually plays any other miner and passes while also just kind of body blocking his castle, which of course is the correct thing to do. His hand might not be well equipped to deal with said T-Rex right now, so it's understandable why he went in this position. We're debating the armory here because if we can kill one of the Dwarven miners while also keeping a 4 health stat line, the other miner needs something else to trade into it, which he might not have in hand. So we're kind of taking that risk here by setting up the armory. And also because we don't really have anything else to really go into right now. He does go for the blue firebolt on the T-Rex, which I thought was an interesting call, because it did mean that he ended up prioritizing the miner's life over popping the armory and then putting the miner into the T-Rex trade, thereby creating a clean board environment. But I guess he wanted to keep said miner for something, and that kind of got me a little interested, a little curious as to what our opponent could have more inside of the deck. But moving on, we do end up in turn 6. We do end up playing another T-Rex just because I do pull the Swordsman for that turn. So, of course, I'm looking to set up our T-Rex Swordsman combo to launch said Swordsman into our opponent's face. Meanwhile, our opponent goes for the Darkbender here, which of course is going to throw a bit of a wrench into our plans at the moment. We're not exactly comfortable dealing with said Darkbender right now. We have no reach for it to get rid of it. We do have a Spiny, but we need something like a Centaur or even maybe a Dwarven Scope, to properly remove that from the board. We end up just going for the Southport Captain and passing because of course we want to get some more treasure in our possession so that we can maybe do some more things in the next turn. But then following that, our opponent does hit the blue firebolt on our armory and an onslaught on our T-Rex, creating a kind of, somewhat clean board environment. Our T-Rex is pretty much on the verge of death. We can't really guarantee that thing is going to stay with us for much longer. So we end up using the combo. We kind of just throw it in his face and are hoping that he cannot deal with it. We also take a bit of a spiny shot here inside, onto the Darkbender, so that way we can maybe force him to take an unfavorable trade with said Darkbender. Maybe you have to force a unit to connect the Swordsman and thereby killing the Darkbender. Unfortunately, he has Dragon's Fire, which is a board clear, in this board state. Spiny at 3 health, the Swordsman was at 3 health, and of course, the T-Rex on the verge of death, dying out to bleed in the next turn here. And unfortunately, that does throw quite a wrench in our plans. We don't really have a lot of backup for this, so we end up going with the just simple Mordok and passing Mordok away from the Darkbender. Mind you, we don't want to take that damage, but we do thankfully draw a Dwarven Scope, which is quite huge. Of course, this is going to be able to interact with his Mordok without giving him too much value, as you can see there. And we even get the Darkbender pop with the Headless Horseman, which was absolutely huge. He does end up pulling the Banshee for turn, which, combined with the Dwarven Miner above, can kill our Mordok, but hopefully that should give us 2 more units to use on the board, so we're not too upset. Horseman comes and connects to probably the worst target on board, that is our castle. We don't really need that, extra health. We want to make it so that way we have to force a trade like this, and of course he ends up creating or making the trade we predicted, which was going to be that, you know, Banshee Endorphin Miner into our Mordok. He does, though, get a cheeky flash grenade from the Banshee that he lost, so this is going to create an interesting combo for him. He's going to run the Horseman up, I believe, flash grenade, and killing the Horseman, or our Horseman, in the process, but we'll be able to resummon, excuse me, the Horseman, which of course takes out our Banshee. Quite annoying, certainly. And we don't really get a big spell to compensate for that, but that's fine. We end up going for the simple rat block here, and I end up going the Southport Captain as well. I don't really want to hit a Mordok in this position because I'm afraid of any sort of additional burns that our opponent might have, which, you know, I think is reasonable here. He does actually go into a Rakanoth for this turn, which I thought was interesting. He does pop, you know, pretty much my entire board, but because of that, we are able to now safely Mordok, and of course, Mordok will kill the Rakanoth with help from the Horseman that we get, which I think was a great pull for us there. And of course, we have T-Rex Centaur for next turn, so things are looking good for us. Our opponent, though, is quite a bit up on cards, so I'm worried that maybe that comes back to bite us in the butt. Our opponent throws the Necromancer and Keeper combination for turn. I think that's fine. I'm not too worried about that because we can actually go into quite the bold play here from me. We are going to end up throwing our T-Rex out as well as the Mordok gets pushed forward. So this is going to accelerate the Mordok into his face, while also having a 7-8 T-Rex threatening face as well. Honestly, I don't expect the T-Rex to stay at that stat line because our Mordok can just simply die. No big deal. We end up going for the Winds of the North play here as well to force him to interact with our Mordok rather than him maybe, say, bopping our T-Rex and maybe being able to kill it through some means with the Keeper. We don't want that. We wanted to focus on the Mordok that's on his face, because with that, combined with our companions, we should be able to end out this game fairly quickly. Our opponent does take the Mordok, connects the Necromancer into it, generating a Horseman, which of course generates damage to face, which I think was great. Again, we want to end off this game as quickly as possible, and getting that damage is certainly the right way to do so. Our opponent also opts for the, Wraith and Horseman of his own. That's of course going to be able to deal some damage across the board here. That's no big deal. And of course he fears back the T-Rex, which accelerates our rat into his face here. And of course with pulls like that, the Centaur and the Spiny for turn, I was pretty happy. I thought it was game over here. Unfortunately, with the way things are positioned, actually looking back at it, I could have actually done that. Like if I just pushed the rat down and threw out the Centaurs to connect on both sides and the Spiny in the back, I could have won. I don't know why I didn't do that, to be honest. I think what I end up doing instead is I push rat forward, extend like a Centaur into his face. Oh no, I push Captain in, right? And then go like Spiny and then put a Centaur in the back. I clearly missed lethal here at this point. So, yep, fantastic. The red man misses once again. But that's okay. We pretty much give him one more turn. And at this point, I'm hoping that he doesn't have Rakanoth. Rakanoth does end the game, unfortunately. Actually, does it? Yeah, it does. Because, of course, the damage from the Necromancer plus the burst. Yeah, that would kill us. But unfortunately for him, he has the Blacksmith return, indicating that he does not have said Raka. And throwing Horseman, I believe, to try and do some damage to us. I think maybe hoping to land on T-Rex to use the Keeper to trade and dealing damage with the Horseman. Doesn't work out for him here, as you can see. And, of course, that is going to be a game number 2 secured for us. I think a bit more of a nail-biter than it needed to be, because, again, I did miss that point of lethal, which is quite annoying. But, you know, sometimes in the heat of the moment, you don't end up seeing those plays here. Only afterwards, when you have the hindsight of the game, can you be able to look at the board like that and be like, oh, I missed that point. But regardless, we're happy, and we're taking game number 2 as another win for us, and moving into game number 3, where we're hoping to continue the streak we're on now. Right, folks, and game number 3 also now underway as we go up against a Pirate Ninja variant, which is always fun to see. Of course, those can be the annoying Coruscope decks, but thankfully for us, our opponent was not on said list, as you'll see in a moment here. We both passed turn 1. Our opponent passes turn 2, which allows us to get the Hovel out early, which is nice, especially against these colors that don't have the clearest form of building removal. We like to see it. Our opponent opens Kaijir, and now we know that, alright, we're facing off against a monster build here, which is quite interesting. We haven't really faced off against one of these in a while, but these also aren't necessarily strong at the moment, I would say, and that's, you know, just unfortunately due to the the rough faction movements of the monsters over the years, but that's fine. We ended up going Baby Dino Hovel here to start establishing these multiple bodies, which are going to be coming in very handy throughout the course of the matchup here, especially paired off with the blacksmith we have in hand. Our opponent does kind of recognize this and go for a sort of big body assault here with the Kaijir as well as the Serpent Witch in the back here. I ended up going for the blacksmith to get these rats all ramped up, as well as the coin rammers here to try and just get a more secure position inside of the matchup. We end up trading, of course, as you can see, to kill off the Kaijir, and we also move to kind of not protect our hovel, which yeah, might have been a bit of a misstep on my part, but unfortunately for him, he can't end up killing it anyway. As you can see, there's a Serpent Witch connecting to the hovel, being unable to kill it this turn, which I think was fine here. He's going to try again, though, with the second copy of the Serpent Witch, as well as a Lumberjack, which is going to make a fine appearance there. I do, though, pull the Lumberjack of my own, which I'm very happy to see. That is going to come quite in handy, as we are going to make a connection here, killing off one of the Serpent Witches. We are going to push the rat down as well. We're going to make the Lumber trade above, just so that way that Lumber can't kill off our rat to get his Serpent Witch closer to face. And we end up, I think, playing the Rammers here just because we want to get, again, these additional bodies out on the board here. We're pretty confident that our opponent doesn't have, you know, burn to pop these or any sort of external means that are going to be really valuable in the game. So we're taking the risk just because, and of course we want to get some additional ways to block this hovel as best we can. Although our opponent could have a fast unit, bop the rat, and that would be into the hovel, but you know what? It didn't happen. As you can see there, our opponent goes in to connect to the stunned Ramrus, killing it without us getting a retaliation, which is, you know, understandable. And our opponent also follows up with the Minotaur, which is quite unsettling. You don't really like to see that. I do pull the Swordsman, which I do like. Unfortunately, I'm not able to summon it this turn. Don't have enough gold, or else we would have had a massive bit of valuable Swordsman there. But we don't. We also trade with the Serpent Witch here. Again, defending our hovel a little bit. Also pushing the Baby Dino down to get in his face here. And I think I follow up with the Centaur to face. I think I just do because I realize that if I'm going to make any sort of progress or kind of want to build up my board, I need to kind of focus his attention elsewhere, and I'm hoping that the Centaur is enough to do so. Our opponent, though, is going to Serpent Witch our Centaur. Kaijir finishes it off from the board. Unfortunate, but again, we got to keep the hobbles, and that's all I'm really interested in. He did give us a very valuable Swordsman here, as you'll see in a moment, hitting the Minotaur while also hitting the Serpent Witch, and of course, leaving the Kaijir unharmed, unfortunately, but, you know, we're not too worried about that because it's most likely that he'll be trading that into our own Swordsman. We're going to try and do our best to maybe, like, throw a bit of bait defense into Swordsman just to kind of try and see what else he's got for us, but I think he does end up taking, the Swordsman trade with the Kaijir, because it's just, you know, why wouldn't you? And at this point, I'm looking to get a Wizard Bestial Rage combo going. He does have the Colossus plus third Kaijir for us, which is a bit annoying. That will, of course, connect to one of the rats here. And I think he moves the Colossus in a way to kind of threaten our hovel. Same with this Magic Eater that now pops out on the board here, all to kind of threaten the hovel, which I am a bit annoyed about. However, it's not the end of the world because now we have another Ramrus. This can do us some fun things because it can get us that Beast tag for the Bestial Rage to get some more value. We end up throwing a bunch of decoy units out here. All the token, 2/1 bodies we have are going to be used as fodder here. I don't mind losing the Baby Dino in this case. I figure that he's running out of resources pretty fast, and I think that we'll be able to really just be able to make a giant swing in the next turn here. I'll let him have a hovel, which is fine. It's no big deal. Our opponent ends up using the Salahar Voyager, though, which ought to get me concerned, because, of course, that ends up leading into a very big monster, which I was right about. King Kaiju does hit the board. It does prove to be quite annoying. And I believe we end up going for the Bestial Rage here. We do play this correctly, though, no worries. We end up connecting with the Magic Eater first, just to get it off the board so it doesn't grow because of the Bestial Rage. And then, of course, we pop said Bestial Rage to connect to our, his Colossus. Finish it off and whatnot. And we get the Ramrus out as well to just pop the Kaijir, because, again, why not? Our opponent's Kaiju is down over there, which I found to be quite unfortunate, but it doesn't really threaten the wizard from this position, so I wasn't too worried. We're going to simply pass it back. There's no reason to have the baby dino this turn because we do want to keep it in case we pull something like a Mordock or a T-Rex or a Dino Nest. So again, we want to keep it alive here. Our opponent, though, does Execution the wizard, which is annoying because, of course, that was going to be our big swing card. Now, not so much, which is, again, like I said, annoying. But we do have the second hovel, or the first hovel still maintained, so we're not completely out of it yet. We can make the trade for the Kaiju here, which I think we end up going for. Because, of course, we want to take away the big, scary 8 attack monster from his side, I guess. And meanwhile, we also done on the Spiny, which will do into a Bestial Rage. Just to kind of get, again, that additional chip damage. I'm thinking that maybe we'll be able to catch him really just unprepared for this because he's only drawing 1 card, still has only 2 cards in hand at this point. And I'm hoping that he's not going to be able to kill off the Spiny here. Ninja Training into Lumberjack, which will connect to the Spiny, which is fine. Although, unfortunately, our opponent does have the Manfish to connect into the Spiny. Again, unfortunate, but hey, that is the name of the game here. Our opponent does put the Kaiju into the Rat. And, of course, I'll pass it back to us, who I think will end up going Armory here. Yep. Because why not? We'll pop that in, and I believe throw the baby dino out to try and block here for our for the incoming Robins. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have any sort of scope here, plus he's only drawing 1 card. So it's more than likely our baby dino will get the trade here until we see the murder. Murder pops our poor baby, and of course the Robins comes in to shoot 5 on face. Not bad though. It does feel bad that he had to waste a powerful spell like that on just a simply baby dino. But we do get the Mordock, which is going to be extremely useful. We do end up pushing a 5/3 Banshee into his face. He's drawing 2 cards for turn, though. We are now in the sudden death mode, after all. Or sudden death. Yeah, no, mode is the right word. Ends up murdering again, this time on our Mordock here. The Manfish comes out as well to pop our Banshee, which again is annoying because we need these units to kind of push into face. But minor upgrade, not a bad pull to get, especially with the companions that we do end up drawing for a turn, which is fantastic. We end up pushing the Southport Captain in, the Rats in, as well as the Centaur now buffed with the minor upgrade. And our opponent surrenders there. He's got nothing left in the tank for us, and that will be game number 3 in our pocket. So far, we're doing pretty good here, at least in this portion of the rankings. We are 3-0. Total wise, again, I think at some point we're either, let's see here, 7-1 or 6-2. Again, not sure on that one, but we do have more matches to get to. So, folks, let's go ahead and jump into match number 4. Now, folks, to be honest with this one, this one's a tough one for me to watch back, and I'm just gonna kind of really not give much commentary on this one. I'm kind of just gonna sit back here and we're just gonna scroll through here. We're gonna scroll through this matchup because while there isn't much of this match to talk about, I'm just gonna show you. Watch the hand here. Watch our hand. Look at the hand. It's turn 3. We can't coin to anything. We've got T-Rex. We've got 2 T-Rexes, a Mordock, a Dino Nest, a Swordsman. It's not good. Look at this. Our opponent gets a Green Drake out of the Stone Drake statue. What do we pull for turn? Are we going to pull something useful? No. We're going to pull a Dino Nest again. We end up going into the Armory, which is like, this is going to get killed. Our opponent's got, I think, the L-Blade, right? Yep, L-Blade. Fantastic. At this point, no. It ends up being game. I finally draw the Southport Captain for a turn, but it's very little, very late. And that's just going to be game number 4. We lose. We lose simply because, Unga Bunga here have every high cost card in your deck draw. Let's go to game 5. Alright, folks, and match number 5 now underway. Of course, this is the final matchup for this deck's ranking, so hopefully we can make it good. But we'll just have to see if that's going to be the case here. Our opponent, a little slow on the mulligan, and that is fine here. Let me just... I think I can fast forward that, right? Yeah, there we go. So our opponent starts off with a Warrior. Very interesting to see that hit the board here. We ended up going for, I believe, the Elvish Thief to block. I'm looking at my hand again. I'm hoping it's not too much of a repeat as in that last game. We're starting to pull things like Mordock and Griffin, which aren't exactly useful right now. But again, we're going to try and recover here, folks. We're going to try and recover. Our opponent is going to, I believe, end up priesting for turn, which doesn't really matter when you have the 3 attack thief walk into the 3 health warrior. Yep, there is said priest, and he does make the trade, giving us that extra bit of ramp, which really we can't utilize too much. We do have another thief, which I think we end up playing for turn, just because. We don't want to throw the blacksmith out or the spiny. Don't feel like there's any real need to. Plus, we can run the Elvis thief up, hoping that maybe we can get a bit more ramp in for whatever comes into our hand next turn. He ends up going for divine knowledge for some draw. That's fine. No big deal. And, of course, he'll pass it back after making the trade with the priest. Unfortunately, we don't really have a whole lot we can do on our end either. We're going to simply throw the armory and pass. Going to get this thing going. We need something here, so I guess armory is good as something. Our opponent pops Inspire, ends up pulling 2 scouts, so unable to throw out any units from that, and then we'll pass back. We use that opportunity to put out a blacksmith for turn. This is going to make the spiny in our hand a bit more devastating, especially against these incoming scouts, which of course is fantastic for us. Our opponent ends up, I think, throwing up, yep, one said scout right into our face, which is fine. We do have 6 gold, though, so instead of popping the spiny into it, which I was originally going to do, I end up going for the griffin here just to get a more established body onto the board, and we can hold the spiny in case he maybe tries to body block for the griffin. But yeah, we're feeling pretty good at this point. Our opponent is going to respond with, I believe, the Frost Giant? Yeah, Frost Giant hits the board. Does freeze off the Griffin, which is a bit unfortunate for us. That is not what we wanted to see frozen. But it's no big deal. We do have a second copy of Armory plus the Spine in our hand, which I think we are going to use both this turn. You can see me hesitating there for a moment on where to put Blacksmith, but I end up making the Armory play. That's going to go ahead, throw that up there. Blacksmith will bop the Scout, killing that off. And of course, we run the 5/5 Spiny into face, hoping he maybe has to double back and deal with that in some form or fashion. However, though, this Frost Giant, I believe, has no fear, as you'll see him kind of take a bit of a different path than what you might expect. He's going to, of course, well, when he gets to it, I don't want to rush the poor guy. He is going to rush up here and attack our Blacksmith, which is, of course, a great way to kind of neutralize some of the global buffs we were doing, although not smart, realistically, because we do have Mordok, which is going to take huge advantage of that Frost Giant positioning in the next turn. Although our opponent does still have resources, he needs to take out things like the Spiny that's sitting on his face, which he can do. He got 7 gold after all. Ends up going for the Monk play here, plus Plea of the Righteous, which I thought was very interesting of a play here to make here, especially considering that he can't really deal with the Spiny just with the Monk alone. So it's going to open him up for a huge amount of damage in face here. Not only do we get the Spiny, not only do we push the Mordok here to start generating this stuff, but we, of course, get the Horseman here. The Horseman does some funny things. We end up pushing the Griffin into face here, bopping that in. Yup, perfect. And then pushing the Horseman back. I know that kind of sets us up for Lightning Blade if he has it in the next turn, but I'm thinking he's got way too much stuff to focus on his side. The 7/10 Griffin, the 6/3 Mordok, the still not dead Spiny. There's things he's got to worry about. So, of course, he needs to kind of figure out what he wants to do here for turn. He's got the resource count to do it, but does he have a way? Does he have a way to do it? Anything for our opponent here? I kind of forget what he does, so I'm hoping he plays it fast. Okay, connects the Mordok into the Monk. Or, yeah, kills it off. Because, of course, actually, for those of you who don't know, Resolve, of course, cancels out combo abilities. So things like that, the Plea of the Righteous activating against the Mordok. I don't get the unit, which is very, very nice for him. Annoying for me, but again, no big deal. We still have a butt ton of stuff on his face. That's the Kraken to finally kill off our Spiny, which is a bit unfortunate here, but I think neglects to remove the biggest threat, the 7/10 Griffin. And for turn, we simply draw into, I believe, the Mordok. Oh, I guess we just using the Mordok here. We push that in. Banshee comes out. We bop for face. We end the game. Simple as that. Not gonna, miss lethal that time. And we end up getting a 29-49 for the deck ranking. Folks, I told you my MMR was bad. Yeah. It's just the pain of new decks. It really is. To be honest, I think we might have some work to do with the deck here. Adjustments here and there. Hopefully next month we can get a stronger set of placement matches for it. But hey, it is what it is. Unfortunately, that is currently where I'm at in terms of ranked with this game, to be honest. Maybe I'll do a video on that another time here. But folks, of course, that is going to do it for the deck. The deck performed, I think, quite well in the video here, going 4-1. the rankings aside here, because, you know, those are screwed up, we are going to move out to close this video. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And with that being said, folks, that is going to, of course, bring our video to a close. A little unfortunate that we didn't break a 3K ranking. Maybe if we had some better luck in that second to last match, maybe things would have been different. But unfortunately, that's what happens with this deck sometimes. It'll brick hard when you're running a lot of dinosaur stuff like that. So, yeah, a bit unfortunate, but nothing we can really do. Overall, though, I'm curious to see if we can maybe get that deck up a little bit higher, whether it's through placements or through some good old laddering. Not sure which I'll do yet, but of course, we'll have to figure that out eventually. So, with that being said, guys, hope you guys did enjoy the video. Be sure to like if you did. Share your the video with your friends, right? Of course, as I said, leave the comments down below already. Hopefully, I did. And, of course, subscribe if you're new or haven't done so already. It's the best way you can show your support to the channel and help us grow, all by clicking that subscribe button at no additional cost to you. But, with that being said, this is going to do it for me for now. So, until next time, guys, stay gaming.